Hello coaches and welcome to this edition of Give and Go Live. My name's David Newberry and I'm joined by my colleague Ian Barker. Hello Ian.
Hello David, I'm excited to do this part two of the Breaking the Press session, so looking forward to it.
Absolutely, and as Ian suggested, this is a second in a series looking at breaking a high press. It comes from a session conducted by Emma Hayes at the 2017 convention in LA. And as we've become familiar now, we are going to be incorporating both video and animation as we present this second session. And Ian, let's talk a little bit about the setup to begin with, and then we'll talk about the methodology as we see on this diagram here. And just to remind our audience that in the first sequence, we ended up having a 6 versus 2 situation to start with in both ends of the field, and each end worked separately but at the same time, so that all of the players had the opportunity to participate. In this sequence, we start off with, again, 6 attackers at one end and 6 attackers at the other end, but we incorporate and start off with 3 defenders. And the objective is, before the team can proceed into the center zone and the end zone, the attacking zone, they must each touch the ball before they proceed. And the defending team, the 3 players, their objective is to win the ball and smash the ball in the back of the net. So Ian, let's talk about how you see the methodology as it relates to sequence number 1.
Yeah, so I'm very much hoping that people have seen the first in the series. So again, just to kind of refresh, we've got this notion of sort of a rondo of 6 versus 3, possession to go forward. We might feel a little bit uncomfortable about the notion of everybody having to attack, everybody having to touch the ball before we go forward. That ultimately is unrealistic, because in the game, if the players can be direct, you may encourage that. However, as a training protocol, the notion of a touch in here, getting everybody, is a condition which encourages this notion of comfort under pressure in the final third. And then to get forward now, one of the ways we can help with this is that we are allowing one of the 3 up front to potentially check back into the space to be the pivot to go forward. So quite reasonable, quite sensible. And when we look at the modern game on our television sets on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, both men's and women's game, you're seeing a lot more possession in the final third to establish the clear pathway to go forward.
So Ian, in the second sequence, we continue the play. The ball was played down the left-hand side of the field from fullback into midfield. And then, because of the condition of everyone touching the ball, we see that the players now do actually achieve that objective. And the next pass is into the middle zone, where a player, one of the 3 players that were playing in the attacking zone, now drops back into the middle zone. They come into that zone unopposed, so none of the red defenders, the 5 red defenders, can come with that player. It gives them a little bit of time to combine, and that once that player has received the ball, then they can proceed forward. The other rule is that nearest players, and it is unlimited, it could be 2 or 3 players, can also enter into the zone once the ball has proceeded forward. Ian, your thoughts?
Yeah, so from my perspective, there's a high degree of realism here that may not necessarily be right apparent. So for example, this player, why would they not just turn and go forward? Why do they play back to the goalkeeper? Well, the answer is that's the game condition that we've established. Is it unrealistic? Well, not necessarily, because this line essentially reflects pressure on the back of this player. So what we're saying to that central midfielder is, sometimes to get forward, we have to be prepared to play back to go forward. So that's a good habit to be teaching our central midfielders in. If we recall, the idea is, though, that they're always scanning over their shoulders to find the appropriate moment. So even in this game where this player cannot turn forward, we still want them, as a protocol and a practice, looking over their shoulder for the time that they can indeed go forward. Once the passes have been achieved, whatever the restriction or the condition to go forward has been achieved, that is a key for this midfielder to check in. So we don't want the midfielder there too soon. We want them moving as they know the ball can now be played forward. As that movement is happening, and it's captured here nicely by David, check to the ball, and you can see this player now starting to check away. So we've got some nice complementary movement. This player, not so thrilled about, because he or she's sort of just killing some space there. But even in this still diagram, you can see the implications for attacking movement because of the game conditions. So I really like this.
And in the third sequence, we're going to follow the play again, maybe a little intricate here, but we've got players now are combining, and players are moving from the defensive zone into the attacking zone forward, and we've actually managed to commit 3 additional players in there to create a balanced, even number position with 6 versus 6 in the end zone. There is no condition on how many passes you need to make once you get into the attacking zone, and you could, in theory, this play could have turned and shot if that opportunity presented itself. Ian.
Yeah, so one of the things I would do in this particular part of the activity is ask my assistant referees, maybe an injured player or parent, to perform the role of the assistant referee, because I'd like to start honoring the offside condition with some more advanced players. But what I particularly like about this is this notion of we've possessed the ball here, we've got the ball in here, and now we've got players moving forward in support, keeping the team connected. And as that's happened, you can see that these 2 people hanging back for us have also stepped up too. Now, you could argue that maybe leaving 2 against 3 here is not your ideal situation, and we've committed too many forward. But the bottom line is that as we've got the ball into the attacking third, our players in support of that have stepped up the field. And so now, should the blue team lose it, should the Reds intercept it, they're in a great position, nice and condensed here, to potentially apply immediate pressure and win the ball back. So I think it's really critical with our young players that just because they play in deep positions of the field, that once we win possession, they know that they should be stepping up. For me, that is a critical part of this diagram.
Ian, now we're going to watch a video from the convention with Emma coaching, approximately 5.5 minutes, and then we'll come back, look at the global coach animation, and then finally get your concluding thoughts.
Brilliant. Okay, now I'm going to put a middle channel into the play. Okay, so do me a favor, step into that area again. You've got your 5v3. We've got a middle area with no players in there. Now I'm going to up the challenge because you've now got less space and you're going to have less time on the ball. But it's really simple. You cannot play the ball forward unless every player in the pink team has touched the ball. Okay? So now you've got to be conscious how you get everybody on the ball. So do me a favor, make a pass to one of the players. Good. Now you know you've got to get every player on your team here involved with touching the ball, and then play to the next player. And there. Good. Hold it there. Now, I really want the players to deal with making as many mistakes here so that when the space gets bigger, it gets easier. Now, once you've done that and you've solved pressure, boom, we're out. One of the strikers, you can now drop down into this area. Play the ball up. As we know, going forward, once we've beaten the press, you're often faced with situations where you're underloaded, where you don't have numbers up. So it's crucial that you're getting in support of the play. So I will let the closest players come and join. So I don't want the player at the back to come out, but you certainly can. You certainly can. You may consider it. And now you've got to get into that box to combine to get a shot on goal. But you may make the decision, player pass in. You may make a decision to go around. I now open the pitch up a little bit because your movement may do enough to affect one of those defenders for you to turn and get a shot. Okay? Of course, I am overloading the players where there is an awful lot of play in the defensive third. It's deliberate practice so that I can get them in situations where, this is the part you really need to understand, they need to make many mistakes, many of them, until they're more and more comfortable. And think about this just from a simple, practical level, and I may open it up a little bit. Stuart, give me another yard either side, just another yard so I can open it up. Keep playing, because you can see that it may take a little bit of time and you may have to adjust the pitch. This is coaching, right? This is what we have to do. But put them in situations where they turn over so that they're more and more comfortable. And you and I both know when I open this up in a minute, it's going to be easier. But I'm not going to start from an easy position. I'm going to start from a position, less time, less space, and they're overloaded immediately. And I want to see how many of them are looking, they're paying attention. Okay, good, and hold it there. Pinks, be conscious, maximum width, maximum depth as much as possible. Open it up. You have to help them. So every time you make that pass, are you happy? Are you happy if she plays that ball there? Where are you less happy if she plays? Right now, in possession, where are you less happy? So now you need to make her work a little harder. So your range mustn't always be there. It may be a little bit longer, because if you start doing that, player there, and she keeps doing that, what will your starting position be? If she keeps hitting that pass. Okay, ball back again. Now you've just bought yourself a couple of yards. Okay, as much as possible. Equally, ball out there, make the space as big as possible, because the last thing she wants to do is go from there to there. But if you're inside a little bit, she's happy. Make them work harder, okay? Ball back again. Remember, keep assessing your shoulders and play. Better. Listen, the balls are like balloons too. Keep working at it. Sorry, it's gone the opposite end. Stuart's decided to go the other end. Keep playing. Listen, I've decided not to go easy on this. I can go 5v2 and everything looks pretty and marvelous and fantastic. Or I can put them in as many stressful situations so they're solving in the tight the entire time. Listen, what happened to the sprint back to the box? Oh, listen, I'm just checking.
Ian, what a great session there by Emma Hayes. Let's now look at the same session using Global Coach, and then we'll come back and have a conversation to summarize. Ian, let's share some final thoughts with our coaches, and then we'll get on to session 3.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of my takeaways would be that our coaches really need to be brave and give this session time. That is to say, you practice it, you go out on a Saturday, you start trying to play out of your back third, you lose the ball, you turn it over and you get scored on. So then you go back to being much more direct and having your goalkeeper punt it. And I understand that. However, when you look at Emma's session, you see a tremendous amount of patience. You also see some very high quality players, and you see how they can possess really well in this back area and still get the opportunities to spring forward legitimately. So again, for me, it's patience. You don't just pass around the back for the sake of it. You pass around the back to bring the red team in, to create space behind them to go to goal. And I think if you stay the course, with the concepts, and you work them in training regularly, and you're prepared to give up the occasional goal initially in competitive games, you can get a lot from this session.
Well, thanks very much, Ian, and thank you, coaches, for joining us on this edition of Give and Go Live. Please join us for the third in the sequence, looking at breaking the high press.